A very good morning to each of you, and thank you for joining this session. I'm absolutely delighted to moderate this session, which is very close to my heart. Can one brand serve multiple markets? We have a powerhouse of knowledge, and these leaders you see on my right deal with this issue on a daily basis, and you can't have anybody better than them to be talking about this subject. So let me start by introducing the panel we have. Completely on my right, we have Niren Chaudhary, Managing Director, India for Yum Restaurants. For those who do not know Yum Restaurants, they own the global brands of KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell. Niren has worked in Netherlands and Germany at KFC and as Operations Director at Pizza Hut in India. On his right is Arun Tadanki, Managing Director for Yahoo India. Arun has worked with Nestle, JobsAhead.com, Monster.com, and was named the hottest young executive in India by Business Today magazine. On his right, we have Atul Singh, President and CEO, India and Southwest Asia for Coca-Cola. Atul has worked across multiple continents, the United States, Africa, and Asia, and has worked for large multinationals like Colgate, Pricewaterhouse, US Body Care. Besides, he's also the chairman of the Rural Development Committee at the CII, so it'll be interesting to hear his perspectives. On his right, we have Jack Modzelewski. I hope I got that right. Modzelewski, President, Client Relations, and Senior Partner at Fleishman-Hillard. For those who do not know Fleishman-Hillard, it is a global leader in marketing, communications, and public relations. Jack has had over 32 years of experience in this field, and most recently was President and Chief Operating Officer for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And finally, we have, to the complete end, Sanjay Gupta, Chief Operating Officer at Star India. Sanjay has had several marketing positions at Hindustan Lever, and most recently, Chief Marketing Officer at Bharti Airtel. So as you can see, you can't get a better panel than this, so I'm very delighted to be chairing this panel. Yesterday, Klaus Schwab dedicated this economic summit to C.K. Prahalad, who's actually, in a very simple way, transformed not only the way Indians look at India, but the way multinationals look at India with respect to how you can find fortune, profit, wealth at the bottom of the pyramid. We've heard those in the previous sessions and across multiple sessions over the last 2 days. So I'd like to know, from each one of you in a brief 3-minute module, how do you see in your various industries and expertise, how can one brand serve multiple markets in this very multicultural, socio-dynamic, India? So I'll start with Sanjay.
Yep. Good morning, friends. I work for a television company. So let me start first by talking about the fascinating world of entertainment. Do you know that each one of us spend more than 3 hours every day watching television? We invite those characters home. We laugh with them, we cry with them. We feel happy and sad for them. Equally, as a country, we are a 100 crore nation. 50% of us are not literate. 70% of us staying in rural villages. We speak more than 1,600 dialects in this country. Every 4 kilometers, the language that we speak in this country changes. And that really sets up the challenge for an entertainment business like ours, and probably for all businesses. Can one single brand address such diverse markets? Let me try and answer this question in 3 parts. First, can you build brands which are profitable in a country like this, when you have such diverse markets? I believe you can. You need to create scale to build profitable businesses. We as a country have very high GDP, 4th largest in the world, but a very low per capita income. And that really sets the challenge for consumers' spending power in this country. Let me take mobile as an example, where I worked for some time. A mobile call rate in this country costs 50 paisa per minute. The same call, when you make in UK, it costs 16 rupees, 30 times the price. And therefore, if you need to make a brand profitable in this country like ours, you need to aggregate minutes. You need to create scale. And to my mind, that's the first principle, that you need to create scale to build a profitable brand in the country. The second, can you create scale in such diverse markets? As I said, for 1,600 dialects, rural, urban, illiterate consumers, can a television brand or can an entertainment brand talk to such diverse consumers? And I like to quote from my own example of Star Plus. I believe we can. You need to find those unifying themes which are emotive in nature. This country is changing very dramatically. Families are aspiring for more, and relationships are changing. At Star Plus, we believe that women are at the core of these families, shaping and nurturing their relationships and shaping the destiny of their families. We at Star Plus celebrate the core of this strong woman, and that really, to my mind, builds the unifying theme for the brand Star Plus. This brand reaches out to more than 300 million consumers every week in this country. When consumers switch on Star Plus, they spend half an hour every day. They are deeply engaged. And fundamentally underlying, in my mind, the second principle being that you need to find those unifying themes which are emotive. Third, and possibly the most difficult in my mind, is the challenge of, can a brand sustain if you create scale and if you create a large brand? Can you sustain it in the long run? I believe you can. It's really, really difficult. You need to have the finger on the pulse of the consumers. This country is changing very fast. We at Star learned it the hard way. We were the #1 brand in this country for almost a decade, and we lost that leadership because I think and I believe we lost touch with the consumers. We stopped listening to them. We lost touch with the families of today. We didn't reflect the women, strong women of today in our stories. And to my mind, which underlines the third principle, that you really need to, if you need to sustain in the long run, have the finger on the pulse of consumers. So to sum up, can one brand serve these markets profitably? My view would be, based on my learnings, that yes, you can. You need to aim for scale as the first principle. Second, I would say, you need to find those unifying themes which can help build scale. Many, many brands have done it globally and in this country, and I'm sure a lot of brand owners do this. And third, and to my mind, which is the most difficult for a brand, is to really find the finger on the pulse of the consumers. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Jack, what is from your perspective?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I'm delighted to be in India. If you look at my surname, it has 11 letters in it. In a country like this, I'm very comfortable with a long name, and people pronounce it very well. Our company has been described as in international communications, so we help companies build their reputations, build brands, help enterprises of all kinds build their reputations, including individuals, leaders. We've been doing it for a long time all over the world. We've helped build brands like the iPhone and introducing the smart car into China and other markets, creating a major education summit in Qatar, helping people in South Africa be introduced to banking for the very first time. So we've dealt with the challenges of both established and emerging markets. I think the challenge in India is very complex because everybody in this room knows that this is a very unique market. It's been called the third largest consumer market in the world. It may be the largest Facebook market one of these days, and it has tremendous disparities across the land, whether it be in wealth, education, literacy, and all kinds of other socio-economic factors. A brand essentially is a promise to people. It's the promise of an experience. And the best way to make that experience important to each and every customer is that you have to enable the right experience and they have to bring meaning to it as the consumer, no matter what product or what service you're offering. So I'll start with that premise. And I'll refer to a famous retailer from my home city, Chicago. There was the great Marshall Field who started retail stores, and his motto was, give the customer what they want. Well, in a market like India where people are living on $1 or 50 cents a day, sometimes less, how much can you give them if you want when they have that kind of very low disposable income living in poverty? So the challenge is enormous, but there's also a very large middle class here, maybe more than one middle class, I've been told. My colleague out in the audience, Yusuf Hatia, who works here and is Indian, has said there's many Indias, probably as though there's many Americas too, but I think India with all its languages, with all its regions, with all its cultural norms is different. So the challenge is really this in 3 points, and I think Sanjay might have made one of these, and that is you start with the person, the consumer, the customer you're trying to reach with your product. And you're trying to figure out how that product makes sense in their life. I mean, that's the whole idea of a brand experience, how it fits into their life, whether it's a Nokia phone, whether it's a package of shampoo, whether it's a beverage, whatever it might be. So insights and research are very important, and this is a marketplace that is known for market research. Some of the best consumer market researchers in the United States have come from India and are at some of our leading graduate business schools in the United States. Customization is absolutely essential in India because of all the taste and the localization here of preferences. So customizing products to the extent you can, and some experts have said there's no end to that. You can keep customizing and customizing all over this country. And then finally, I think this is a very key point. How do you create economic vitality around brands so that we solve other problems like economic development and jobs? And I think that comes down to local suppliers, trying to find the local suppliers, creating them, developing them so that they play a role in customizing products and making those brands attractive in a very competitive marketplace to the customers out there. So those 3 points I'd like to make.
Thank you, Jack. Atul?
Thank you, and good morning to you all. Well, the previous two speakers talked about, what brands are and what they represent. From my perspective, when you ask the question, can one brand straddle across markets? Can you be profitable across markets, et cetera? Coca-Cola is consumed, and we deliver the promise 1.6 billion times every day. So when you ask me that question, the simple answer is yes. It is the same product everywhere you go in the world. So you don't even have to customize. You can take a unique proposition, a unique promise, and deliver it at pennies a bottle or a can or a cup, billions of times per day, per month, per year. We've been around for over 124 years, 125 years actually next year, and we sell our products in over 200 countries. I think it's 205 or 6. And every country where we operate, we sell Coca-Cola. We've got over 500 brands and maybe over 3,000 products, but clearly the name on our business card and on our building is Coca-Cola, and we truly believe that if you have the right proposition, you can take that and deliver it to the consumers in a format that they're looking for and actually be profitable no matter where you operate. So from the back streets and the back villages of the remotest locations in Africa to the biggest cities in the world in the channels that are very, very high end, we deliver that promise every day. I think the opportunity for us really is how do you execute a strategy, how you take the same product and make it special, unique, relevant to the billions of consumers, to consumers who only earn $1 a day or less than $1 a day. Take a country like Nigeria, Kenya. Per capita consumption of our beverages are 36, 39 in Kenya. It's 665 per capita in Mexico. It's only 9 in India. Even Pakistan is 15 per capita. China's over 30 now. So for us, we're just getting started. And when you look at the billion people in India, and yes, there is a bottom of the pyramid, and yes, there is a top of the pyramid, but we're okay if a consumer earns a dollar a day or less than a dollar a day, because we can, with technology, deliver that promise at pennies a bottle. And I think that's the opportunity for us. When you look at India, where 20% of the world is an Indian under 25, and 10% of the world's teenagers are Indian, and then when you add the China figures, there's going to be 1 billion more people urbanizing, moving into the middle class. There's going to be several 100 million more teenagers coming in over the next 10, 15 years, and it's only just these two countries. And then you add Africa to that, so I think the opportunity is tremendous. And yeah, you can, we believe in keeping life simple, 1 or 2 brands. We have, I believe, 12 or 13 brands that are over $1 billion brands in terms of retail. So yes, we have 500 brands, but if we can keep our life simple, if we can deliver that promise billions of times a day, I think that's the opportunity going forward for companies like ours. Colgate-Palmolive, I spent 10 years with them. Again, from tooth powder to toothbrushes to other oral care products. One brand, Colgate, over 200 countries again. Pennies a sachet in rural India to high-end products where you can charge a fair value at the top end. So I think if you keep it simple, focus on global brands, yes, you can customize, but the opportunity really is how do you make it relevant to consumers? How do you distribute it to them across the countries and across the world? And then how do you make that business profitable and sustainable so that you're building sustainable communities with the multiplier effect that our businesses can actually deliver? Thank you.
Thank you, Atul. Arun, from the internet perspective, how do you see this issue?
Thanks, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to start by drawing a distinction between a single brand versus a single product. I come from the point of view that it is possible to serve the Indian market with a single brand, but it is almost impossible to cover the diversity in this market with a single product. Sanjay mentioned earlier on that in a market like this, literally every 5 kilometers you have the language changing, the culture changing. And I can give you a fascinating example, okay, which contrasts very much with Star's approach, for example, where content is the same, whether you're in Delhi or you're in a small town in Bihar. It's the same entertainment program that you watch. But I'm talking about a publishing house called Dainik Jagran. A lot of us know this group as a publishing house that prints a Hindi newspaper. What I learned from them recently, to my fascination, is that they actually produce 240 daily editions of that newspaper in a single language, and each of the stories written in the local dialect every single day. I think that is truly capturing the nuances of the complex market like India, and actually genuinely offering a product experience that suits the needs of the consumers in that particular area. In many product categories, that may not be possible to do. But in product categories where it is possible for you to customize, I think it is a great opportunity for companies that actually do. I'll take an example from my own company, where when it comes to consuming news online, a few years back, whether you were in New York or you were in New Delhi, you saw the same news on Yahoo homepage. But today, on an average, actually, we serve up almost 1 million to 6 million versions of our homepage, depending on where you are, who you are, and what you are interested in. And I think today, technology and science is actually making it possible for us to be able to address the diversity in a market like India in a scalable way. Like I said, in many other product categories, maybe that's not possible. But I think in some product categories where I think people look for customized experience, it is extremely important that we actually cater to the different needs of those consumers. But having said that, I think online news is online news. There are no significant, dimensions other than the fact that everyone wants to consume different content. But there are certain categories where, for example, I've seen in the packaged snacks, category in India, Lay's has been around for many years. They have successfully sold their potato chips to a certain degree. But American sour cream and onion can only go so far in India. But when they launched Kurkure, actually that whole business actually exploded because it's a very local product, that's built on a very local taste, and suddenly you saw the category actually explode. So I feel in India, it is extremely important for every brand to think how you can actually customize the product experience, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have 20 different brands targeting 20 different parts of the country.
Thank you. Niren from the food world.
So the topic of single brand, can single brand serve multiple markets? I thought I'd share my thoughts with you in three parts. Firstly, why is it important? Secondly, what exactly does it mean for me? And how do you really do it? So I think the context of why this is important is because I think India has a unique challenge in terms of a business model. In fact, I feel in India you have first world costs and third world affordability. So you have rentals that are equivalent to London or Munich levels, etc. Khan market is supposed to be one of the most expensive real estates in the world. And yet you have a country which has a per capita income which is 140th in the world. So how do you really make that work? And there's an intrinsic tension between the two. And like a wise man once said, in India it is not about best practice, it is about next practice, because a model doesn't quite exist. How do you really build a viable economic model with this kind of an inherent contradiction? And I think my thoughts are that you need to essentially have a model which is broadly relevant for as many consumers as possible. Therefore, you have a very broad top line. And of course, you need to optimize your cost base. The other thought on why it's important is I think it's easy to get mesmerized by this 1 billion number that we know about India. I think you need to filter that 1 billion in terms of how many can actually afford your brands and how many are willing to spend on your brand. And I think when we apply that filter, at least to our industry, we come down to about 100 million consumers. And therefore, I think the second important implication of that is that focus on who truly your consumer base is that can afford your concept at a particular point in time is extremely important. So that's the context of why I feel it's important. What exactly are multiple markets? I think you can dissect that in multiple ways. I would say one way to do it is based on key attributes of your industry. So for our business in food, key attributes are food preferences. So you have consumers who like vegetarian, who like non-vegetarian, who like fried, who like non-fried, grilled, and so on. Another dimension is price. Consumers who like abundant value, quality value, or price point value, different ways of segmenting the market. Or you have convenience. Is your brand convenient for consumers when they're at home, or they're at work, or they're traveling, or they're entertaining? So I think the what dimension of multiple markets would be along those lines. And then finally, how do you really do it? I think that's already been covered. I think the key to me is that you need to have a really deep consumer insight on some unmet need that exists in the market that your brand can meaningfully satisfy. The second, I think, which is absolutely critical, is to have really meaningful differentiation for your brands versus the competitive set. And third, of course, is to be able to execute against that differentiating idea that you have for your brand. So those would be my thoughts.
Thank you, Niren. Interestingly, the way I'd like to share this story. I think most Indians might know it, but for our international guests, everybody's heard of the nano, right? It's changed the way we've been seen as in terms of innovation. It's in case studies all over the West, and we've done ourselves proud with that innovation. But 30 years before the nano was developed, you had something called a jugaad. It's basically a bullock cart on wheels with a diesel pump engine, which is used for tube wells. It used to carry 30 people. Even to this day, there are hundreds and thousands of these vehicles plying in the western belt of India. And I'm just telling you, from a localization, customization, it would cost you a third of the nano, carry 10 times more than the nano, and it would even be able to carry with wood planks cattle, right? Along with bridal parties and the like. And the cost of operation was nil. So all you did was put a wheel, put 4 old tires from wherever you could get it, put this diesel pump, and off you go. You're on the road, and it could even go, if engineered properly, to up to 45 kilometers an hour. That was the jugaad. So, that's what I just wanted to open your minds to: innovation and localization, what is happening even indigenously from India, for India. And of course, we learn from the experts here. So with that example of localization, Niren, I'd like to come back to you. You mentioned about knowing the customer insight, differentiation. I'd like you to go a little more deeper into how do you get about deciding your strategies with respect to localization. Most multinationals actually fight that because there are global policies and you have business divisions who say, how do you break that barrier?
I think one is to firstly have an ambition of building a brand, like I said, which is broadly relevant and deeply accessible to as many consumers as possible. Sort of a anytime, every time brand is the mindset that we have. So let me give you an example of, 2 examples. One is both of them with KFC. So KFC, as you know, internationally stands for, fried chicken. And here we felt that given the product life cycle of the brand, which is just in the initial stages, we can define the brand to be pretty much anything we want the brand to be. And we tested that idea with a vegetarian product. So now KFC and vegetarian, how does that really fit? But I think if early on in the product life cycle, if you find that that's a critical way of expanding your consumer base, and you come up with a differentiated product which resonates with the core DNA of the brand, which is around irresistible taste, then it absolutely hits the bullseye. So we launched this product last year, and I think we've been able to expand the consumer base with that. Another example that comes to mind is a range of branded beverages that we've launched called Crushers. Now, those of you who know KFC internationally, there's no such thing that exists as branded beverages that you would associate with a concept like KFC. But here again, because we're early on in the product life cycle, we spotted this unique opportunity in the market of having Starbucks-like quality at 50% lower price and a product which you can drink and eat at the same time. So with that unique product idea, we went about launching this about a year and a half back, and it's been absolutely a blow-away success. We got huge sort of credit from the consumers because it is a vacant spot in the consumer's mind, both in terms of quality and the price at which we introduced it. So I think those are 2 examples of how we've entered into some white space with the consumer and exploited that opportunity to broaden the base and relevance of our brand.
Thanks, Niren. Sanjay, television has been a major cause of explosion of knowledge, information, coupled with this economic boom we are riding. Now 75 million people in the rural areas or more, and growing by, I guess, millions more on a daily basis, exploring your content, which influences them, the advertising, which goes with the content, influencing them. And you mentioned this very important last point, which is keeping the pulse of the market. How do you do that? I want to go a little more deeper into doing that because you are changing these buying perceptions.
I think keeping the finger on the pulse of consumer is really one of the biggest challenges we face as a brand. I'd like to talk about one of my experiences. I was working in a small town in MP with a rural team of HUL. And I met this 20-year-old girl selling door-to-door sales, selling HUL products. Now expecting in a Hindi heartland in this country, where you expect that women do not have access to education, possibly are largely homemakers. It was really a great surprise. When I got chatting with her, I asked her about what her aspirations were. She said her family wanted her to grow in that field, and I asked her what she wanted to do in future. And she said she would like to do my job one day. And that really underlines the changing aspiration, the changing country, which is really dramatically putting pressure on brands to keep the pulse on the consumers. And I do think this finger on the pulse can't come by mediators. It can't come through research agencies. They can be a good tool, But to fundamentally know your consumers, you need to go out and meet your consumers on your own. Your own teams of people who run businesses have to go out and understand what that changing India is all about. And I like to quote what I tell my team all the time. Apne marne se hi swarg milta hai. You have to die yourself to go to heaven. And that's what you need to do to really keep the finger on the pulse of the consumers.
Thanks, Sanjay. Atul, we've grown up with Coca-Cola brand from our, childhood. But how does Coca-Cola globally see the Indian market, and how would you describe their marketing strategy having changed and evolved over the period of time?
Well, clearly, like most companies, in India is a strategic market for us. With a billion plus population, and the next 15, 20 years, the demographics of 500-600 million more people moving into the middle class, with the level of expansion infrastructure that's going to be built in India over time, the urbanization that's going to be, according to the latest McKinsey study, I believe 65 or 68 cities with over 1 million people. So clearly it's a very important part of our expansion plans globally, and in India is clearly on the map. In terms of marketing strategy and what we do, because we've been around in almost every geography in the world, we've got different models of how we have operated and how we've been successful in Latin America, in Africa, in rural parts of those parts. So we do have successful models that we can apply to a country like India. People have already said that there are many Indias, and when you look at the top of the pyramid, when you look at the consumption pattern of the top 1 million households, it's very different from, of course, the bottom of the pyramid. The opportunity for us exists right across, and I think that is the overall macro opportunity. The challenge is, how do you, given the challenges and limitations of infrastructure, given the fact that half of India still doesn't have electricity and our products have to be ice cold and chilled, how do you innovate? You talked about jugaad. We have our own jugaad. So for example, we have cold drink equipment that doesn't need electricity. You have cold drink equipment that uses solar technology. We have equipment that we can chill our products. So if you have sunlight, X number of hours of electricity for X number of hours, with eutectic pads, we can chill when there is no electricity. Product formulation. Yes, brand Coca-Cola is universal, but then, consumer tastes and preferences change. We've got 1 billion people in India, and for 3,000 years, they've been drinking 2+ liters of fluids every day. So how do you commercialize some of that opportunity? We are probably the world's largest producer and consumer of products that are in the dairy space, in juice and juice drinks. Globally, we are the world leaders in juice and juice drinks. So here's another opportunity for us to tap into that segment. So when you look at what we're looking to do over the next decade or so, clearly there is tremendous growth, we believe, in the sparkling side of the business, and we're going to continue to invest in that. But on the still side of the business, juice and juice drinks, another great opportunity. Rehydration products, water and water-based products. Again, a lot of opportunity there. So we're going to focus across the different spectrums. We're going to have products that are going to range from the bottom of the pyramid to all the way at the top end. And that's something that's going to be our priority over the next 10 to 15 years in India.
Thank you, Atul. Jack, I know you're very familiar with India, but I'm very curious to look at, since you're based in the United States, how do your global clients see the best opportunities for building consumer brand franchises in the market? How do you help them and bring out such subtle differences between how they look at the urban markets outside into the rural markets?
Well, first of all, we deal with clients of every kind: service businesses, product-oriented businesses, retailers, B2B businesses. They will all look at the Indian market a little differently, depending on whether they're trying to sell something to a consumer or sell something to the government or to other businesses here. So I can't really generalize about their individual strategies. but they see the market as one of tremendous opportunity. Obviously, they are trying to leverage their experience in other places where maybe they've spent longer amounts of time. China obviously comes to mind, Eastern Europe and Russia, for instance. But again, sometimes the comparisons between these markets stop after looking at absolute size and the consumer market franchise that's there. I think they struggle with some of the themes that we've already talked about. How can you make a profit with all of the complications of distribution and retail and infrastructure and getting a product just around to the market so that you can sell it? Obviously, companies like Coca-Cola and others have mastered that, but I'm sure you still face some obstacles. So they're concerned with that. They come to us because they're most concerned with the challenge of communicating to people here. And when you look at urban versus rural, I'm not an expert on India, as others in the room might be, but in rural markets, I would imagine that internet penetration is much lower, and literacy is lower. And yet, you often are able to build brands and communities of consumers, and I know the word community here was used several times, because one of the most powerful forms of communication and marketing is a very old-fashioned idea, and that's word of mouth. And I know that word of mouth is very important in this country. It's very important in China. It's very important in Indonesia, the Philippines, and Egypt, and other places. When people feel that they're getting good value from your brand, whatever it be, Unilever, Yum, Yahoo, some of the other brands represented here, when they feel that they're getting good utility and performance from it, even if they're buying it in micro quantities, the word spreads. They tell others. As you get electricity in rural communities, people start watching television, so they get the news. That's another powerful form of communication. But it all starts, I think, with the social media of people talking to each other. So that's where we can play a very strong advisory role based on our experience, not only in India, but in a lot of other countries.
Perfect. That leads very well to Arun. What innovation does Yahoo look at, from an India standpoint, and more importantly, with the competing priorities? I mean, especially global brands have a lot to lose in their backyards, and therefore investments, although the opportunity is large for countries like India and China, there is always this hesitancy from the corporate center. Are we spending too much? Are we pushing a lot more in this area? Is there going to be enough return on that investment? How does Yahoo look at those issues?
I think that's a fair question that I guess every multinational company will have to evaluate. So the truth is that it's not localization for the sake of localization, right? There are certain areas where we have actually kind of gone beyond our global portfolio of products. Like, say, this example that I gave of Jagran. We partnered with them about a year and a half back to launch Hindi news on our site. And remember, we are still talking about a situation where just about 5-6% of the country's population use internet, which normally one would assume is really this urban English-speaking audience, and therefore English news should be just fine. But when we launched this partnership and launched Hindi news on our site, in less than 1 year, Hindi news actually overtook English news on our site. It's almost unbelievable. We couldn't believe it ourselves. Okay? And the reality is that a lot of consumers, including many of us in this room, we are bilingual. English is our second language, right? So that simple insight actually contributed to a significantly increased engagement with the consumers with a very localized product. Similarly, actually, we have actually launched products like cricket in India. It's a product that's meant for India, launched for India. And globally, we have a sports product that has 20 different sports. But in India, we said, there may be 20 different sports. The one that matters really is India. So we created the product almost entirely focused on just one sport. And we've seen that product actually take off like a rocket. Now, we're talking every month almost like 80 lakh people or 8 million consumers visiting a cricket property just to check the scores and actually read the news. So the truth is that even in large multinational companies, there are some products that tend to be relatively constant across geographies, but there are some products where you can actually innovate, where you can customize and bring about local experiences.
Great, thanks. I'd like to now just take the discussion to themes which we talked about around affordability, which is a very key aspect of the large masses we talk about at the bottom of the pyramid. Of course, that's not an issue for the top of the pyramid. Distribution is of course key because for someone like Sanjay, for your content to come out, you need to have TVs out there, you need to have the connectivity. Likewise, for the internet, you need to have that penetration going down from what we heard from the last panel, from 1% up to many percent, and those 8 million will become 25 million in a short fashion. And of course, changing social patterns, which is very interesting. There used to be earlier Indians would buy land when they had some disposable income, farmers. Now they buy consumer durables. Now, I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but clearly there is that shift which is also making a difference to people's minds. One story around distribution which comes to my mind is, I heard this about, and I'd like to hear your views, India is all about the Rolls-Royce strategy or the Matchbox strategy. So either you get that high-end quality, you can't get a mid-size, a second-hand product into this market at the top end because there's a very high consciousness for quality at the top end, and so they will reject it unless you have the latest, greatest car or whatever you're talking about. And at the bottom of the pyramid, if you can get your distribution right to where you can sell a Matchbox, if you can get your product there through this wide array of distribution across all these millions and millions of villages across the country, or they call it the 5 rupee strategy, your business is going to be a rocking success. I'd like to hear from your pricing point of view, Niren, and Atul, similarly, do you think in those terms?
I think value for India, I mean, if you say that India, like I said earlier, is in terms of per capita income, 149th or somewhere there. Purchase power parity, the GDP is in the top 10, etc. In a huge dissonance. What that implies is that value is absolutely critical in a market like India. And if you visualize the income pyramid, it's a very sort of a flat pyramid with a massive base at the bottom. And if you go top down, value has different definitions. The top is money for value. If you have the right quality, I'm willing to pay for it. The second level below that is value for money, which is what do I get for what I pay. The third is good enough value, which is rather unique to India. As long as it's good enough, it's good enough. I'm not willing to pay for a brand beyond a certain point. It's quite unique to India. And then further down, which is also unique to India, is price point value. I only have 50 cents in my pocket, and I'm going to shop around till I get what I want for that price. And I think for any brand, it is very important that you have to have a compelling value strategy as you tunnel your way down the income pyramid. So you have your money for value, value for money, good enough value, price point value, strategies for all your brands to ensure that you're becoming deeply accessible for your consumer groups. So I think absolutely vital. And this basically drives an innovation mindset in our companies, which is price point-led innovation, which is also unique to India, where you decide, okay, this is a penetrative price point, which is $1 or 50 cents or $1.50, and you go to the R&D boys and you say, okay, give me a product that satisfies a compelling consumer insight that I can sell. And this kind of, you work backwards from a consumer price and you drive innovation basis that.
Thank you. Atul, from your perspective?
I just want to make a couple of points. We've talked a lot about product and product innovation. We use packaging and packaging innovation to drive price points. One item that's totally non-negotiable is quality and a quality promise. So when you buy a Coca-Cola product, and if you buy Coca-Cola, what's inside the bottle is totally non-negotiable. It is the same everywhere around the world, same quality standards around the world. But as consumers, and as we understand motivation of consumers, each one of us as a consumer, when we're sitting in a place like this, a 5-star hotel, our motivation is such that, when you want to buy a Coca-Cola or a Diet Coke or whatever beverage you drink, you're willing to pay X rupees. You pay 100 rupees for a bottle, maybe even more in some places. When you're out there on the streets at a panwala or a little kiosk on the street, you get the same product for 8 rupees. That's our, and it's few cents a bottle. And it's in a returnable glass bottle. And through our great network of bottling partners around the world, we can distribute those bottles and pick up the empties and then rewash them, recycle them, bring it back to you, and serve it to you at 8 rupees. So 8 rupees is very affordable in India. That's on the beverage side. When you look at the bottom of the pyramid, and you mentioned sub 5 rupees, we've got products around the world, and in India we are in the state of Orissa with distributing through NGOs a product which has micronutrients. It's a powder product called Vitingo, which has 6 minerals and micronutrients. We know that the people in India, especially at the bottom of the pyramid, for example, there is iron deficiency. So we innovate, create products that are relevant for a particular geography, particular country, with micronutrients, and we're distributing it, delivered to people, to households, at less than 5 rupees. In fact, it's 2 rupees 50 paisa for 1 sachet. Now, the opportunity exists across. It's how you take your products, how you innovate in packaging, how you innovate in the entire distribution chain. Whether you create hub and spoke models, our bottling partners invest significant amount of money in technology, in clean technology, green technology, to get product out there to consumers around the world in the remotest villages across the world. And we also build sustainable communities, because there's somebody who takes that sachet, distributes it, sells it. So there's a transportation logistics partner, there is a manufacturing partner, there is a packaging partner, there's an advertising partner. So the multiplier effect really adds up. And I think there are innovative ways in which you can distribute to the bottom of the pyramid. At the same time, you can have a great tasting product at appropriately priced for the top of the pyramid.
Thank you. Jack, you wanted to comment?
If I could just comment on the same question. It's interesting that as people ascend out of poverty into the lower echelons of the middle class and beyond, how they behave as consumers. And there's an interesting study that was just published by the management consulting firm McKinsey on this subject in China. And I think it could be relevant because I read some of the blog entries after the article, and they were by people from India who said you could put India in that article and it would apply. And I think there are a couple of major lessons. One is that this notion of selling on the basis of low quality, low cost is being rejected in places like China and maybe in India too. If people can't afford a product, doesn't mean you give them a crummy product, because they won't use it, they won't buy it. Secondly, as people's income goes up and their preferences for certain categories of goods, whether they be household products or beauty products or health care, they start making trade-offs to trade up. So this notion of going from the Matchbox to the Rolls-Royce, there has to be choices in between, because people will take their consumable capital, their money, and they'll start spending it on the things that they really value.
Perfect. Sanjay?
Yeah. I think I'll have a different perspective on the question that you asked. I think Atul talked about water and how you're addressing the water need. And yesterday we discussed the water needs in this country. One of the big challenges for a product like water, the packaging or the transportation cost of water is so high. The use of technology can really change this dramatically. And I was there in the Product of the Year session, which was happening a few days back, looking at the innovations in this country. And I saw a beautiful innovation from HUL, Hindustan Unilever, on Pureit, where they have devised a technology by which you can actually build or create drinking water from your own water and fundamentally bring down the cost of water to possibly 20 paisa a glass, which really is the cheapest way to do it. So you can use technology and looking at consumer needs to say how you can apply the technology to deliver the need gaps in that market.
Yeah, we We have an example similar to that where we used, you must have heard it in the previous panel, with Reuters, we've put news out to 300,000 farmers at $1 a month. They pay, and the return on investment some of them get is as much as $400. So you can look at ROI, that's a phenomenal case. And there the challenge is around distribution. It's not about the packaging, the product, the content. All of that is doable within the realms. The issue is how do you get out? And this reminds me of this wonderful story at, way back when Maruti came into India. They set up these lovely car showrooms. And one of the brand managers had an idea. Let's take this car mela to a very remote village in Punjab. They set up this car mela, and everybody said, you must be nuts. Who's going to buy that in that area? They were shocked. On day one of that car mela, they sold 40 cars, which they don't sell in the showrooms in the cities, and it was off the shelf, cash down, paid, and that was scandalous for that whole company to realize there's so much wealth at the bottom of the pyramid. It's just when they asked the farmer, or who was buying the car, why don't you come to the city? He said, convenience. You've come to me. Here you go. Here's my share of wallet. So I don't know whether you guys, from a distribution standpoint, how do you get into that distribution network, and how do you increase that? I mean, I guess, Arun, from your perspective, as I mentioned earlier, you would love that 1% of internet penetration or whatever it is today to even triple, because that has a huge impact on your business. Can you be an enabler of that?
No, I think it's there are usually 2 or 3 drivers to growing the internet market, and some of them are actually things like prices of the handsets really coming down. And it's just a matter of time, and usually we've seen this in most of the countries. These trends work towards actually helping the market become a lot larger than what it is today. Prices of handsets have fallen from almost 30,000 rupees to now 5,000 for a very smartphone, right? The second part of it is actually the data access really falling. The price of data access today for $2 a month, you can pretty much get unlimited data access, right? So all of these kind of set the stage for the market to actually grow and give access to a large number of consumers who we cannot reach out today. But having said that, I think there is another element where we can bring value, and that's where we play a role in actually helping expanding the market. That is bringing content that's relevant for people who are actually going to come online from a number of these smaller markets, right? We can't help cut the prices of the handsets. We can't help cut the prices of the data plans. But what we can do is bring content. When those people come online, they actually have a meaningful experience on the internet, and that's really what we play a role in.
Great. I'd like to open it up for questions. Sorry, Niren, you'd like to.
So on distribution, I think the convenience, which is a key category driver for restaurants, we found some very interesting things happening in India. One is just as we are finding that we are opening up into smaller towns, I think the response to our brands is actually disproportionate and at times staggering compared to the large cities, because it's now convenient to consume a brand which so far was not possible. And then if you map out sort of how a consumer lives, and if you're able to provide easy, convenient access to your brand in the life of a consumer. So when he's at home, can he order your food? When he's at office, in the IT parks or wherever else, office blocks, can he have access to your brand? When he's out and about in shopping malls, high street, that is somewhat obvious. Airports, railway stations, can he access your brand? When he's entertaining out in the evening, is your brand also available as an access point for you? And I think, therefore, we are currently experimenting with different asset formats of different sizes to ensure that we're able to envelop the various needs of a consumer in terms of driving convenience. So we have small food courts, express stores, large flagship high street locations, drive-thrus that we're experimenting with, and so on. And I think the 2 that really stand out for me, I think, are which are higher than what we had expected in terms of consumer response, are our restaurants in airports, in railway locations, on highways, like drive-thrus and so on, which have been, I think, because basis the convenience that they provide for the consumer, have been very, very successful.
Excellent. Yes, to the gentleman in the center.
Hi, my name is Tarun Puri from Nike, and I have 2 questions for the panel. The first one, Jack, starts with your comment of India is actually many Indias. And I think the panel has talked a lot about the opportunity within this India, whether it's the super luxury segment or the middle class or indeed the abject poor. The question I have is, while we've talked about sustainable business models and profitability, we have to address the fact that when you're looking at brand image and you're trying to straddle different types of Indias, what are the challenges that brands actually go through? And that question is to Jack, Atul, as well as Sanjay to look at different experiences. The second question is actually taking off from what Niren said in terms of the huge challenge that retail costs bring to our part of the industry. And we have great examples from, for example, the Coke example of going across different parts of India. You don't have too many examples of that on retailing. And therefore, Arun, my question to you is, do you see e-tailing giving us a paradigm shift on retailing? And what would be your time frame on that? Thank you.
Why does Jack start the ball?
Well, I'll just start out, and being from Nike, I know that anyone who is in the apparel business, the shoe business, the fashion business, has to be concerned about dealing with a country with so many different levels of income, taste, preference, and whether the quality of your brand image can be compromised if your strategy is wrong for addressing that market. And all I can say is to come back to the point that in a market this big, 1.2 billion people, there are probably millions and millions, if not tens of millions, of potential Nike customers or other brands out there who are trying to attract them, which is a pretty big market to start out with. But I guess as you expand on your strategy, what happens when you're trying to deal with people who really want your brand, really want that brand image that they're aspiring to, and people all over the world certainly aspire to the Nike brand image. How do you satisfy their taste? And I guess I throw that question back at the manufacturer and at the brand. Can you satisfy what they want, whether it be a shoe, whether it be clothing for playing cricket or running or whatever that is, at a much lower price point? And if the answer is yes, you can do that without compromising the brand at the upper price points, then you'll be okay.
Atul?
Yeah. I guess the question was, image and how do you connect with consumers at the top end and the bottom end. When you look at brands like Coca-Cola and we look at the opportunity, India is very diverse, you're absolutely right. So the challenge really is, or the opportunity is, how do you find one common threshold, one common set of values, et cetera, that represent the brand and the passion of the people. We've got our current Coca-Cola global campaign is Open Happiness. Happiness is something that all of us can relate to, whether we're at the top of the pyramid or the bottom of the pyramid. So when you look at our latest campaign that is concluded with Diwali, it's about a kid going home to celebrate Diwali with the family. You could be a farmer, you could be working in Hyderabad in one of the internet BPO offices, you could be an industrialist, you could be a shopkeeper. The passion, the values of Diwali, coming home, celebrating with family, universal. When you look at how consumers behave and when you look at the passion points, yes, India is very diverse. Yes, we've got lots of languages, lots of different ethnic groups, etc. Cricket is something that unites all of us. You have a cricket site. We use cricket as a passion to activate the brand, if you will. What we also do now is 360 degrees activation. So it's not just television. Yes, television is a very, very strong and important medium for us, but it's internet, it's radio, it's what you see in shopping mall, it's the experience. So when you go into a shopping mall, when you go into a large outlet, whether it's a big bazaar or a Bharti Walmart or a small little kiosk in a railway station, it's the experience that the individual has with the brand. What they see on TV, what they see in the internet, do they experience that in the shopping mall or at a McDonald's? And if the answer is yes, and if it's something that appeals universally to that individual, they respond. And then we deliver the promise with the experience when you drink it, It's that little moment of optimism, the moment of freshness, the moment of, and that's how we can do it. It's difficult, you know, but it's challenging. But it's something that, you know, you have Bollywood or movies. India's the largest film industry in the world. Everyone loves movies, you know, whether it's Tollywood or Bollywood or you know, Hyderabad in Tamil Nadu, etc. So that's another passion point that we try to engage and activate with our consumers.
Thank you, Atul. Sanjay?
Yeah, I think I talked about the unifying themes which are emotive in nature, which really cuts across and builds and strings the brand together. But I think for Star India, the bigger challenge beyond image is about how do you connect with consumers down to the local villages? Because we are talking to a much larger population. Our penetration is close to 60%. And I think the way we handle this challenge is more by rooting in the native soil, or localization as we say. So for example, we have a brand called Star Plus in Hindi-speaking heartland, and we have a brand called Star Jalsha, which really speaks to the Bengali population down to the last village. Now in these two different brands, we tell the same stories, but we localize them. So to give you an example, we have a big show in Bengal called OBS, Ogobogo Shundari. And the same show has been translated and done in Hindi, which is called Sasural Genda Fool. Now both these shows at the core of it have the same emotion, which is about a young girl trying to find a mother and a mother-in-law. But fundamentally by localizing it, by ensuring that we speak the language of the people who are listening to them or who are watching those stories, we really bridge the gap across the width and depth of this country.
Thank you, Sanjay. Arun, you'd like to answer the second question?
I think as far as the question on whether e-commerce can, in some form, solve the challenges of the complexity of the supply chain and the distribution and the reach issues in this country, I really think that's a long shot. Honestly, e-commerce is still very nascent in India. It's barely like $10 million, $20 million of revenue, the whole category put together. If one were to take an optimistic view, I think in 5 years, you know, e-commerce can add a lot of convenience to many of the urban consumers, you know, really rather than drive up and, you know, in traffic and buy a product. I mean, you can simply buy online, it just gets delivered to your home. But I really don't see that in the near future as a substitute to having a physical distribution infrastructure to reach consumers in rural markets.
Thank you. Next question? Yes.
I have two questions as well. One for the panel as a whole, which is, would you agree that a brand is simply a commodity with a promise or an aspiration attached? And as long as you leave the promise and the aspiration relatively untouched, you can tinker as much as you like with the product, format, packaging, etc., without creating brand schizophrenia. And the second question is actually primarily for Atul. As marketeers, what is our ethical responsibility to our consumers, especially those that are living at $1 or $2 a day? Is it really ethical to market to them the same product and brand mix that we are marketing to the top of the pyramid? I'm thinking of colas in particular. So for instance, what will you tell your brand manager? Will you shift your marketing dollars to an incredible product like Vitengo? Or will you keep your marketing dollars at with Coca-Cola because that's your flagship brand?
Atul, you can go
Yeah,
first.
let me take the second one first and address it. You know, there's a lot of debate, and there's a lot of global debate, and you're referring to a couple of things. One is obesity. The other one is, you know, do you have people who are earning just $1, and do you want to market Coca-Cola to them, or give them something with micronutrients that are good for you, or perceived as better for you than colas, etc. You know, I spent in my previous life 10 years with Colgate Palmolive, and I had the good fortune of working in countries like Nigeria, where I lived for a few years, Romania just after the revolution, etc. And you know, we had acquired some companies, and this is Colgate and toothpaste, and we were looking at products, and there's a lot of discussion on the quality of product and the promise that delivers. And there was, and what we found was that the products that were higher end, relatively more expensive with technology, were doing a lot better even at the lower end of the pyramid. And when we did research and we talked to people, they said, and the insight was, you know, especially verbatim, people would say, we are too poor to make a mistake. So they were going in for the higher end products because they said, we're too poor to make a mistake. I only earn $1. I got to make sure I get the best for that $1. Now, when you look at Coca-Cola as a product, we've been around for 124 years. We sell to everybody around the world. And for us, it is safe rehydration. We believe that, A, there's nothing unhealthy about Coca-Cola. We serve over 200 countries around the world, and we serve 1.6 billion drinks per day. The farmer, the people when you look at waterborne diseases, that is the single biggest issue around the world, waterborne diseases. So when I was in Africa with Colgate-Palmolive, I remember my driver, he would stop in every once in a while and said, "Sir, do you mind to take a break?" And he'd go and have a Coca-Cola. And so I said, "Why do you do that?" He said, "Sir, when I leave my house and when my kids leave the house, I tell them the only product you're going to drink," this is my driver, uneducated guy, worked from a village. I'm working for Colgate-Palmolive, and he'd say, "The only drink I tell my children to drink is Coca-Cola because it's safe, and so in his mind, that's what he's drinking. Now, yes, there is sugar in Coca-Cola. Sugar is natural, and the obesity debate, a lot of countries, especially the bottom of the pyramid, the issue is malnutrition. So what we want to do is give consumers choices. We want to give consumers choices. Yes, there's product with sugar, without sugar. There's products that are juice-based. There are products that are dairy-based. There are products. So once you give consumers choices, what we find is consumers keep coming back and making those choices, and they keep coming back and choose where they believe the promise is being delivered. Having said that, we want to continue with products that are science-based, with products like Vitingo, which we are distributing. Vitingo, by the way, is a non-profit venture of ours right now, where we're saying we have a unique needs across the world at the bottom of the pyramid. Africa, we have a product called Nourisha, which is X number of micronutrients, etc., relevant for those markets. So clearly, we want to give consumers choice, but at the same time, we want to give, and we are investing behind the bottom of the pyramid, products with micronutrients, products that are absolutely safe, products for rehydration, juice and juice-based products, etc. And that's basically the spectrum. We continue to use science, we continue to do research, and continue to innovate behind our products so that we can continue to deliver the promise to the consumers.
Thank you, Atul. Anybody like to take the first question?
I think
Sanjay?
the second question that you talked about what brands can do, I do believe that the big brands that you're talking about are really talking to a large number of consumers and deeply engaging with them. Fundamentally, they have great power. And I think with great power needs to come great responsibility. And I do think our brand Star, and possibly a lot of brands which sit here today, can really have a significant impact in shaping the future of the society. And I do think, over the last 2 days, we've heard about chats on water or energy. I do think, as Star definitely, we can contribute by making, through our stories and characters, those issues come alive and come on the top of the agenda.
That's very well said. Jack, you'd like to
I
come?
would just add on that question that products or brands become commodities when they stop listening to their customers and when they don't adapt and they don't innovate and they don't reinvent themselves. And in today's world, if you're not paying attention to what your customers are saying online and to you in different forms of communication every single day, then you may risk becoming a commodity. But I think there are a lot of great brands out there who stay on top of it every single day. They know what their customers are experiencing and what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong.
Thank you. We have time for one last question. You go first. We'll try and get one more in. Make it brief, and I'll ask the panel to make it brief as well.
Hi, my name is Kapil Nevatia. I'm into diamond jewelry manufacturing, so branding is quite close to us. My question is for Mr. Singh. The people who have grown up in India and who are over the age of 25 have been used to a brand called Thumbs Up. Now, you're having a Diet Coke right now. Do you think it's a good idea to have a Diet Thumbs Up?
Well, yeah, Thumbs Up is the number one brand in the beverage segment in India. So absolutely, the whole generation grew up on Thumbs Up. It's a great tasting brand of ours. For us, it's about choice. I mean, this is my my preferred beverage because I just enjoy the taste, and I have Diet Coke, quite a few a day, I must add. But yeah, absolutely, I love Thumbs Up too. Is the question, we continue to look at options, but the diet segment is very, very small in India. And a lot of other parts of the world, it is still a very, very small segment. We believe there's tremendous opportunity in the core brand Thumbs Up. So will we ever have a diet Thumbs Up? Well, who knows? We'll keep looking at it.
Thanks, Atul. Yes, the lady here, and then we'll see if we have time for just one more. Quick, short. Thank you.
I'm Anjali Raval from the Financial Times newspaper. Innovation has been sort of a big thing that always comes up with these sort of India summits. What is the next big innovation? What is the next big idea to come from each of your companies? Jack, I think you may also provide some insight as well.
Quick, 30-second Go ahead. For each one. Niren, you want to take this? Start with it. Could be innovation doesn't mean product. It could be anything, distribution, anything.
I think in India, a competitive strategy to establish long-term shareholder value has to drive an innovation mindset in your company. I think it's absolutely vital. And I think we are at it every day for all of our brands. I think be it Pizza Hut or Taco Bell or KFC, so I can talk a little bit about Taco Bell. I think some of you may be aware of it. It's a Mexican-inspired brand. And we recently launched our first pilot store in Bangalore. And we are innovating very heavily to actually adapt that for the Indian market, primarily on the vegetarian side. So you have a lot of vegetarian burritos and paneer tacos and so on. So I think that's an example on Taco Bell, but I think it's an innovation mindset, I think, is a culture of the company, that we want to be sort of really ambitious and really aggressive about mining through consumer insights on an ongoing basis and coming up with products that are relevant.
Thanks, Niren. Arun?
Yeah, in my opening remarks, I talked about actually customizing the product experience to different consumer segments. Our innovation and our energy is focused a lot on making it actually personalized. Our global CEO went on record saying that right now we serve up 1 million to 6 million versions of Yahoo homepage. We want to serve up 600 million versions of that, one for every single consumer. I think there's a lot of science and technology that goes behind it, and that's really where we are focused on.
Thank you, Arun. Atul?
Yeah, I'll give you 3 examples. We in India, especially in North India, we make nimbu pani at home, which is like a fresh lime. It's a lemonade, but not without the fizz. So we've recently launched Minute Maid. The brand is Minute Maid. It's our global brand. Nimbu Fresh. So that's a local innovation. You make it at home when you're out and about if you want to drink that product. So do try it. Maaza. You talked about Thumbs Up. Maaza is a great tasting mango juice drink, which in fact is a very popular drink. And a lot of people we found was at home would have a mango milkshake or a mango smoothie. So we said, well, why not create that in a package? So we have in Kolkata, we are testing Maaza Milky Delight, which is a mango smoothie. And the third product, which is going to be officially piloted starting tomorrow, and I have my PSC person here, Deepak, I know the word is out, so I can officially say it, is Nestea iced tea. It's great tasting, specially formulated for the Indian palate. Going to be launched tomorrow in Mumbai, and it is a great, refreshing drink that's going to lighten you all up.
Thank you, Atul. Jack, you'd like to give one innovation, if there is?
Very fast, and I know our CEO, Dave Sine, is in the audience. He'd love to answer this question, but I think it's going to be around insights-driven content in partnership with our clients, because their customers are demanding exciting content, whether it be entertainment, whether it be knowledge, whether it be in any form of media. And I think we're going to be moving into that space in a greater way with our clients and with media partners as well.
Thank you. Finally, Sanjay.
Let me try and give 2 or 3 examples of innovation that we believe that we're doing. One, I think we're in the business of entertaining consumers on television, but we're in the business of entertainment. There's a large amount of consumers today who don't have access to television. So one of the things that we're investing behind significantly is to start our Star Plus audio channel, which you can listen to and get entertained with through your mobile, and which really increases the reach and the impact that we create most significantly. On our core business, content innovation is key. a lot of reality shows that you see on television are all about song and dance. We recently started a show called MasterChef, which really talks to a large number of consumers, because possibly only 5% of people in this country can sing or dance, but almost everybody can cook. So really bring innovations and content which are meaningful to consumers. And third and last in my mind is innovations beyond the core area, which is innovation in the adjacent fields. And in that area, as an energy saving initiative as a part of our energy, we really want to become carbon neutral as we move forward. As an industry, we use millions of tapes in our industry to move content across. And we are investing significantly to build a tapeless organization and tapeless environment to really contribute and become carbon neutral.
Thank you, Sanjay. I think, sorry, I know there are a few hands, but we just run out of time. I'll just quickly sum up. Clearly you've heard from these experts that there is profitable business models at the bottom of the pyramid. I think what you need to be is bold, committed, because there's no halfway house. Let me just test the shores. These gentlemen have shown how their various businesses are putting the might of the organization, the brand, the promise, the aspirational values these brands stand for right behind these innovations, and that's what's turning into making the hurdles of accessibility, social changes, keeping the pulse on the air, on the customer really very simple. So I'd just like to, say I didn't introduce myself at the beginning because I didn't want to take it away from these fantastic guys here. I'm Tarun Anand, Managing Director and Senior Company Officer, South Asia for Thomson Reuters, as well as a co-founder of Universal Business School. Please join me in thanking these fantastic stars.